He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Actually, Mark Levin is off today. I'm Jerry Yeager, broadcasting from high above Chicago from Mark's proud Chicago affiliate, WLS. But I want to take a couple of moments here to address something that Barack Obama said during that third debate earlier this week, when John McCain raised the issue of babies surviving abortions but then being left to die. Actual human beings already outside their mother's womb, alive, left to die. Barack Obama said that was a misrepresentation of what he did in his votes in Illinois, that he voted against the bill because it was unnecessary, because there was already a provision to save babies in that circumstance. And if you listen to him, it sounded sort of reasonable. But the Chicago area nurse who exposed the practice of live birth abortions that led to the bill Barack Obama repeatedly opposed in the Illinois legislature says Obama lied about his record during the final presidential debate. Her name is Jill Stank. She says Obama again misrepresented his position and record before the American people. What kind of person would let people die, would let babies die if they're born because the abortion didn't work? Well, it would be Barack Obama, amongst many others, tragically. But Jill Stank joins me now. Welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
All right, let's get to the core of this thing. Barack Obama says that babies born alive, even if they had tried to abort the baby, were already protected under Illinois law. The bill was unnecessary.
Well, that's false. The bill that the law that he's hanging his hat on says that if an abortionist determines before a baby is born that the baby he or she is trying to kill might survive and might be viable, no, for sure is viable, then that abortionist is obligated to call a second physician in to assess the baby's birth.
Okay.
So that law is loophole ridden in that it's the person trying to kill the baby who is determining whether he or she thinks the baby's going to live, and also that other parts of the law were enjoined in 1993, including the definition of live birth. So Barack Obama's just grasping at straws. He's just lying.
I have an email here, and I ask you if this is true, that Obama is on tape speaking to the Illinois Senate, denouncing the Born Alive Act and saying it would be a waste of time to get a doctor to care for these babies who are meant to die anyway.
Yeah, there's an audio tape out, a clip of him speaking on the Senate floor in 2002, arguing against having a second physician come in to assess the baby because he says it would be a burden, and that's his word, to the original decision, and that's, again, quoting him, of the mom and the doctor to abort the baby. So what he's saying is, if a baby survives, you shouldn't have a second doctor come in anyway because the mom wanted that baby dead, so you should let that baby die.
You know, Jill, talking to Jill Stank, who was the nurse who first brought this story forward about Barack Obama some time ago, you would think that anybody, no matter how gung-ho a supporter of Roe v. Wade and abortion they are, would think once a baby is born and alive, it's just a horror. It is murder to kill that child.
Well, he opposed this bill 4 times in a row over the course of 3 years, and he was the only senator to speak against it on the Senate floor. And he argued, he's on record as saying that he thought declaring very young abortion survivors to have the same legal status, to call them legal persons, as 9-month-old full-term babies would lead to the overturn of Roe v. Wade. He says because you can't, these are declared a child, you can't kill a child. And so this would lead to the overturn of Roe v. Wade. So in other words, he was again saying in a different way that if a baby survives an abortion, you should have the chance to kill that child. If by not calling it a child, you should be able to kill it. And those are his words: kill child.
So assuming
record.
presumably, then, Jill, if somebody made the case that we're really not going to call little kids children until they're over a year old, he'd be okay with killing them about the time they learn to walk.
Well, I've said, and it's irrefutable, that if what he is saying is true, that certain abortion survivors shouldn't be called legal persons, then it should be okay if a baby survives abortion to smash the baby over the head or suffocate the baby, because it's not really a baby. And he is on record in saying that in a different way, but that's just absolutely true. He considers abortion survivors who are very young to have the same non-legal status as babies who are unborn.
All right.
It's a scary place that he's at because he calls himself a constitutional expert.
What got you involved in this in the first place?
Well, in 1999, I discovered that Christ Hospital on the southwest side of Chicago in Oak Lawn was involved in a late-term abortion procedure that sometimes resulted in babies being aborted alive. And if they were aborted alive, they were allowed to die without any medical intervention whatsoever. And I held a little baby who had been aborted because he had Down syndrome, 21 to 22 weeks, so just not quite viable, for 45 minutes until he died. And that prompted me to action. The Illinois Attorney General at that time, Jim Ryan, who was a pro-life Republican, investigated, and after a year determined that Christ Hospital wasn't breaking any law. And so that's why the Born Alive Act was introduced in 2001, and that's where I first ran into this no-name state senator in the Judiciary Committee when I testified, named Barack Obama. And he began at that point fighting the bill.
And he was successful?
He was successful until he left. 6 months after Barack Obama left the Illinois Senate to move on to the U.S. Senate, finally passed in a Democrat-controlled House and Senate and was signed into law by a very pro-abortion governor, Rod Blagojevich.
So it's your understanding, it's your understanding then that the person who was really keeping this thing from passing and wanting to allow babies born alive to just die on the table or in the hands of some anguished nurse like yourself was Barack Obama.
Yeah, and he didn't just vote against this bill. He took a leadership position. If you go to his website, he has a quote from Pam Sutherland, the CEO of Planned Parenthood of Illinois at that time. ABC News quoted her as saying that Barack Obama approached her to strategize to overcome not only Born Alive, but the partial birth abortion ban that was heard right around that time. Obama approached abortion proponents to strategize to overcome this bill. So he took a lead role in defeating Born Alive.
You know, if the world worked the way that it should, Jill, people would be horrified at the thought of his being president just for that. But unfortunately, as you and I know, it doesn't work that way. I'm out of time. Jill Stank, it's great to talk to you. Thanks for this.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.